Hi there, and welcome back to another episode of Sticks Plus Twine. This is episode 25, and my name is Eric. I'm coming to you from my home here in Toronto, and we have a lot to talk about today because there's been a lot going on in the world of Eric and the world of knitting, and of course we've got some favorite segments. I've got some really great feedback about people talking about how much they enjoy the organization of it, so hopefully you're enjoying that as well. So let's just jump right in. As I said, my name is Eric. I can be found on Instagram as e.p.lutz, that's L-U-T-Z or Z, depending on where you're from. I can also be found on Ravelry as E-P-L-U-T-Z or Z. Same rules apply. I am most active on Instagram on a regular basis, but I do try and respond to all comments on my YouTube channel. So thank you again to everybody who has subscribed. We are now well over 5,000 subscribers, so thank you so very much. I have a quick little giveaway that I'm going to be doing. I said I wasn't going to be doing any more physical things, but I did get something in the post this week that I wanted to share with you. That was a fun little giveaway, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, along with a bit of Rhinebeck recap, which is great. And so why don't we just jump right on in. Okay, why don't we start out with the upcoming KAL that's starting on November 1st. We'll be going through to the end of January, and that is the EverybodyLovesPiKAL. So this came as a result of a little survey that I did asking you what you would like to do, whether it was a sweater or a pie shawl, and pie shawl won. So EverybodyLovesPiKAL will be starting November 1st. I will be casting on for the Leaves of Grass shawl by Jared Flood, and I'll be making that in the Quince & Co. Finch base in the honey colorway, which seems to be sort of the color of the season. I'm so glad to see that more people are enjoying that color as well. So that's the first one. Prizes, there will be two prizes. The first prize, both prizes will be drawn by random number generation, of course, and the first prize will be a $50 gift card to basically a vendor of your choice who provides access to Canadian gift cards. That will be in Canadian dollars. The second prize will be of the same nature, but it will be $25. So I myself will need to cast on a little bit early. I will be actually out of town on the 1st of November. I'll be in New York for a conference. So you'll forgive me if I cast on a couple of days early because I want to just get a little video that I can share with you of my work in progress and casting on and all that sort of stuff. So that said, whips are permitted as long as it's not like 95% done. If you're like less than 5% in, sure, whatever, that should be fine. I know I certainly will be less than 5% done by November 1st. So let's go with that, shall we? Okay, so that is easy peasy. Everybody loves PiKAL. Why don't we move on then to status report. As you can probably tell, I am suffering a little bit of congestion still. I was filled with a bit of the Rhinebeck cold that's been going around after the fact, so you'll forgive me if I have to stop every now and again for a sip of tea, which is here today. This one is David's Tea Juicy Orange. I just wanted something, a little warm, a little refreshing, but still a little bit delicious. So, and it's very delicious. So let's talk about status report. First things first, you will notice I am wearing my Rift sweater. It made its debut at Rhinebeck this year, and I was really, really glad to see that I actually finished it with a couple of days to spare, which is great. What can I say about this pattern? I probably made it about a size too big, but that's okay. It's very, very cozy. This is in the Quince & Co. Lark base in the Frost colorway, and I'm thrilled with it. I love the shoulder detail, the ribbing. I thought it might actually let a little bit of cold air through and stuff, but it actually doesn't. It stays really nice and warm. Really, really good pattern. I'd say if you are a first-time sweater knitter, which I was, it is very accessible. Just follow what the directions tell you to do, and you'll be just fine. Second thing, Rhinebeck socks. So, Rhinebeck socks, I finished both. Ta-da! There they are. And you'll see, I'll put them that way so you can sort of see what I did. There are still ends to be woven in, and they're not really finished. They're finished down to the toes. But you notice I have not yet put in the heels. So I have yet to do that. I didn't get a chance to finish them before actually Rhinebeck. And since then, I haven't really felt like doing it, to be honest. I will do it shortly. I'm working on another pair, which I'll show you in a moment. But I kind of figure, what the heck, I'm just going to do like a heel day and just put in heels in a couple of pairs at the same time. They're pretty quick to do. This is the Smooth Operator sock pattern by Susan B. Anderson. And I found for an afterthought heel, she's actually got really, really good concise directions. I've done one pair in them already and they work out really, really well. So I'd say go for that if you're curious or want to give that a try. The one thing that I might do is I kind of don't really regret, but I do wish that I had done the toes in the contrasting color that I'm going to do for the heels, which you probably, maybe you will or maybe you won't be able to see. The yellow stripe that's there, yeah, you can see that, is actually the Tough Love sock by Sweet Georgia in the saffron colorway, and I'm thinking that will be the heels for both of these. And I'm kind of thinking I might actually rip back a little bit and do the toes in the same. So, I don't know. We'll think about it. Maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't. So that's the socks. I have another finished object to share with you that I cast on before Rhinebeck, and it is now finished. This is the Furrow Cowl by Jared Flood from the Woolens book that he released earlier this year. And this is in the sap colorway in Brooklyn Tweed Shelter. I will just pop it on. It looks a bit weird. It looks like a bit like a skirt for, you know, a small person. But when it's on, it comes nice and cozy up around the chin and has a bit more room and volume in the rest of it. It's super, super cozy. I really, really like it. When I wasn't feeling terribly well this week, it was really quite the comfort to wear. So I really liked it. I have not yet blocked this. All the ends are woven in. There's actually not many because for the first time I actually did spit joins for the yarn, and it worked out really, really well. This took almost exactly 3 skeins of shelter. I did cheat a little bit on the end garter section just because I didn't want to break into another whole skein to do another 2 rows. And I don't think it makes any difference whatsoever. So I love it. I think it's great. It's really cozy, and it doesn't quite go with the sweater, so I shall take it off. But there it is. You can see it is a bit skirt-like, and that's exactly how the pattern is written. So enjoyed that knit. It was actually really, really good. I'd say it's good TV knitting, actually, because you only get cables every 6th row, and for the rest of it, it's actually really, really straightforward. You do need to keep a little bit of track of where the decreases are to make sure that it has a proper shape to it, but other than that, it's really easy, and I love the color. So there you go. Cowl done. So let's talk about, so we've got the PiKAL that's coming up, which is good. I am working on 2 other projects at the moment. I am working on the Berenice sweater, which is, oops, sorry about that, which is a sweater from Brooklyn Tweed Kids that I am knitting for a friend of mine and her daughter. And I have just come now to the point, I've got a little over where it said to stop and start to increase for the sleeves. But the girl that I'm knitting this for is actually quite tall for her age. So I've added in about another 1.5 inches, which should give her a little bit of extra wear to it. If it's a little cropped in the end or after a little while, it won't matter. But it's a really cool pattern. You can see it's got this lace panel in the center, which is then bordered by 2 ribbon cables on either side. Can you see that? Yeah, you can see that. Try not to dip my needle into my tea. This is in Brooklyn Tweed Loft in the Thistle colorway. It's interesting working with Loft. It's not super soft when you're working with it, but once you actually wash I washed my swatch and it worked out great. It feels really, really nice. It's very, very light, but I think it's still going to be quite warm and cozy. You may or may not notice I am working on new needles. So for my birthday, my parents actually gave me a set of Addy Clicks, which I'm really, really pleased with. The join is not the smoothest, I'm not going to lie. There's a little bit of a little catch that's on it. It does kind of worry me a little bit for things that would be, say, really, really delicate yarns. It might not be the best choice. But the loft is working fine with it, so I'm enjoying it. And thanks, Mom and Dad. That was awesome. Awesome birthday present. So we'll put that back in its home, and it's living in my field bag, which if you've watched the Yarn Hoarder, Amber's new podcast, she's got actually quite the collection of these, and she's absolutely right. She talks a little bit about how when you first get them, the handles are a little stiff and the fabric's a little stiff, but with use, it really, really does work out well. This is vegetable tanned leather. It's the same kind of leather that it takes patina really, really well, and it acquires a patina as you use it. So really, really like that one. We'll just put that behind us. I am also working on another vanilla sock, which is, again, smooth operator sock pattern, in my second field bag. This one is the colorway. This is Wild Hair yarn, and it is, sorry, I got myself all tangled up. I've already passed the heel here, so you can see I just used some scrap yarn to do the heel. This is in the colorway, these are the droids you were looking for. And I picked this up at Vogue Knitting last year, and when I was not feeling well and I couldn't really focus on anything else to knit, I just wanted something simple, so I cast on for these socks. And this cuteness here, I'll just show you up close. This is just a little, I guess it's sort of, it's flannel, little needle cozy that my friend Debbie Reese, the Periscoping Sisters, gave me, and I love it. It works really well. I know it's primarily for DPNs, but for doing magic loop or working on circs, it's really good to keep things from sliding off the ends of your needles. So thank you, Debbie, for that. And that's kind of it for works in progress at the moment. I am planning on casting on another sweater very shortly. This one will be the Kusama sweater for my mother-in-law, which, not gonna lie, I'm making it out of acrylic. It is Peyton's Canadiana. I'll show more of that when I actually get some decent length to it so I can show you what the pattern looks like. I figured for her, she's not going to necessarily want to wash and block a sweater with any consistency. So I decided that I will make it out of acrylic to make her life easier, and that way she doesn't have to worry about it shrinking or anything. She can pop it in the wash. So yes, there are times when I will work with acrylic, absolutely, and I see no reason to shy away from it. So that's it for the status report. I'm just checking my notes. Yep, that's it. So why don't we take a quick pause to reset the decks, and we'll come back and we'll start talking a little bit more about Clean Up Yo Stash Day. So if you happen to have caught my last episode, you will hopefully remember that I had designated October 22nd as my first annual Clean Up Yo Stash Day. My stash had gotten a bit out of control, not in terms of volume, but more in terms of organization. I had no idea what I actually had left. I kind of knew, I kind of had an inkling, but I had no real certainty for it. And I really wanted to better utilize the tools that Ravelry gives us and actually know what I have and how much I have so that I could figure out what projects and what to add to my queue, so that I never really had to struggle to figure out what next to knit. So last night I invited my friends Ashley and Ramona over. We had wine, we had pizza, and we kind of went through, I'd sort of thought about this, how I wanted to organize it and maximize the use of our time. Fortunately, we have a relatively large space in the building here that I was able to secure to use. And what we did is we brought all the stash from all the various places in the house and the storage locker into one place, and then we sort of got down to business. So a couple of people have asked me, how did I do it, and sort of what steps did we take for it? So I don't want to forget how I did this, so I wrote it all out for you. The first thing we did was we laid everything out on the floor. Totally went through, not even really worrying too much about grouping things, just laid it all out. The next step was we went through and I selected the things that I knew for sure I was never going to use. Stuff that I had bought when I first started knitting that was really good, decent stuff to work with, but I knew that I would never use it. So we put those into a big donate pile, and those will be donated to various places, including the Toronto Knitters Guild for raffle prizes and for sales opportunities to help keep that going. And I think a couple of skins will be made into hats and such for the Fort McMurray people who are still, they're coming into winter, and it's going to be supposedly a really tough one this year. So I was happy to help at least give some of that away to help sort of make them a little more cozier this year. The next thing we did was we went and grouped through all the sweaters quantities, because that was a big chunk of it. So it turns out I actually have about 5 sweaters quantities worth. And that was pretty easy because they're big masses. Those all went into a great big giant Ziploc bag, just to help keep it really organized. And they were all in individual Ziplocs by what sweater they would go in. But that way I knew that if I wanted to crack on with another sweater, I could just dive into that, pull out what I need, and away I go. After that, we grouped by sort of larger houses, yarn houses. So all the Brooklyn Tweed went together, all the Quince & Co. went together, all that sort of stuff, so that it was pretty easy to enter into Ravelry as well in sort of one fell swoop. And Ramona, bless her heart, took photographs of everything, so I have a visual record of what it was, and then Ashley wrote everything down, and I basically ran around organizing all of the rest of the yarn into piles. So that went really, really well. Then we sorted things out by weight. So we started out with fingering and made our way up to Aran weight. And some of the fingering, a lot of the fingering weight that I have is from indie dyers. So I wanted to keep those all together so that when I put them into bins, I can label the bins and actually say what is in each. So I can easily find and recall what's there. So, when I want to, cast on for a shawl or a pair of socks or something, I know exactly where it is that I need to look. And then everything from there was just straightforward. It was, I do have quite a few sort of one-offs, things that I had bought for either smaller projects or without a project in mind, but knew that I really liked the color, that sort of thing. So all of that has happened. I spent a good part of the morning today entering everything into Ravelry, finding pictures so that I had a visual reference online. And then anything that I knew was assigned to a project, I made sure I went and added that to my queue and assigned the particular yarn to each of the individual projects. So going forward, what do I do now? Well, I'm going to show you all of the haul, of course. There will be a haul, trust me. But going forward from here, anything that I buy, I'm going to try and stick to what I'm going to call a PSP, which is a project-specific purchase. If I have a project in mind and I know what it is and I've added it to my queue, I can easily go in then and just add those particular skeins of yarn in. But truth be told, I think I might cut myself off a little bit, only because I have a lot of yarn, maybe not as much as some people. Have you seen Amber Yarn Hoarder's stash? Wow, that's a stash. But you know what? I feel pretty good about mine. I have a lot of good variety. I have a lot of good stuff to work with. So I don't feel like I really need to go and buy anything in the near future. But if I do, if I have a project that I'm really dying to work with, then I know that that will be purchased for those projects specifically. So that was Clean Up Your Stash Day. I'm curious to hear how you did, if you participated, or if you are already super organized, congratulations. If you have no stash, okay, go away. You don't have you have nothing to add here. You have nothing to add here, nothing to see. No, I'm kidding. So I just wanted to share a big thank you to Ramona and Ashley for helping out. And for anybody who managed to check me out on Periscope last night, we did quick little Periscopes. Just because a couple of people had asked to sort of see it in progress. I think it records the Periscopes now for a little while, so if you really want to go back and see it, you're more than welcome to. I was a bit of a hot, sweaty mess by the end of it because we were running around a lot, but it worked out really, really well. So again, thanks to Ashley and Ramona, and yay, I have a stash that's organized. All right, so that said, what about future projects? Why don't we come back in just a minute and we'll talk about wish list. Okay, so wish list. What's a wish list? A wish list is kind of, things that we wish that we could work on, or things that we want to buy, or yarns that we covet, or resources and materials that we'd really like to work with. So I thought I'd add a few things here, maybe every episode, that I'm really interested in exploring or finding out about. So the first one I want to talk about was a pattern. So at Rhinebeck, and I'll get to talking about Rhinebeck in a little bit, but at Rhinebeck, in this amazing sea of knitwear, and of course everybody puts on their finest, There was one particular person walking around wearing a hat that I turned to Ramona immediately and said, "Oh my God, look at her hat. We have to know who that is." So we stalked her down, chased her down a little bit, introduced myself and said, "I need to know, what are you wearing?" And it turned out that her hat was just ridiculously gorgeous. It includes color work and cables. The hat itself, and I'll make sure I get this right, the hat is the Norland hat, and it's designed, it turns out, by the person who is wearing it, who is Sarah Huntington Birch. She is a designer with several patterns on Ravelry, and she's been published quite a few times. And this pattern was actually published in Twist Collective, which I wasn't familiar with. I'm familiar with Twist Collective, but not the pattern. And I just absolutely adore it. I think it's an amazing pattern. It's one I will definitely be making without a shadow of a doubt. It is a fingering weight hat, like I said, that includes cables and color work. It's just stunning. So Sarah, bravo. It's an amazing design, amazing design. So Sarah Huntington Birch, I applaud you. You've done an amazing job. I can't wait to see what else you come up with. Oh, and the pattern actually includes a pair of mitts as well. So if you're interested in doing hats and mitts, you get it all in the same pattern. So there you go. And of course, there will be a link in the show notes if you are interested in checking it out. The second thing is a notion, and it's a relatively big one. So anybody who has used a ball winder for winding your skeins of yarn, your hanks of yarn, knows that sometimes they end up getting a bit ratchet at the end of the day. And I have two. The first one I stopped using right away because the yarn kept getting trapped underneath it and it wasn't good. And then I bought a Knit Picks one, which I don't know if it's me or if it's something slipping in the gearing or something, but it's just not working so great these days. It was working really, really good at first, and now sort of my skeins are getting very lopsided and very turban-esque. It looks really weird. So what I really, really lust after right now is from Nancy's Knit Knacks, which is a handmade wooden ball winder. So it is a magnificent piece. It is not cheap, but it's handmade, it's wooden. I think it will work perfectly just right here next to my Swift. So that's on my Christmas list. It's something that I know I'm slightly difficult to buy for because I do tend to sort of buy what I like when I like it. But this one, I'm going to see if maybe Sebastian will get it for me for Christmas. So that's something I'm lusting over. Let's talk a bit about a yarn. So Brooklyn Tweed this week, or this past week since I recorded last, came out with their new base, which is called Arbor. Arbor is a worsted spun DK base. It is not tweed. It's a solid color, and the palette is outstanding. The colors are amazing. So, of course, I ordered a couple of skeins to play with, and I'm being a little bit coy about what colors I ordered, but if anyone is maybe a little eagle-eyed or has watched a number of episodes, you can probably guess what colors I might have ordered. I'm really looking forward to trying it out. I don't knit a lot with DK or Sport for that matter, but I kind of enjoy working with it. It's a little bit lighter than a worsted. Well, it's a lot lighter than a worsted, but a lot of men's stuff doesn't really come in that sort of base. So I'm kind of curious in testing it out and trying it and see how I like it. It is spun in a different mill than they typically use for their regular tweed bases. So I'm very curious to try it out. If you haven't checked it out, it was all over the Knitter Sphere the past week or so since it was released. The last thing I wanted to talk about was a book. And the book is called Sequence Knitting. I think it was published about a year and a half ago maybe, by Cecilia Campo-Chiaro, who's really taken a very mathematical approach and look at creating different patterns through mathematical progressions. It's very much a coffee table book, which in the knitting world is kind of unusual, but I am really looking forward to getting my hands on it. It's something that I've been interested in for quite a while, and since it is a bit of a heftier tome, I think that's also going to be added to the Christmas list, but definitely will be on the wish list. In Knitter's World this week, there's three things that I wanted to talk about. The first thing was about traveling on planes with knitting. There were a couple of people that asked sort of my experience or my opinions on traveling with knitting needles, and I have to say that I've been really fortunate, knock on wood, that I've never had an issue traveling with needles. So I usually use circulars and even sock needles. I've never had a particular issue. The TSA rules, I believe, state that they are acceptable. However, it is up to the individual agent, security agent, to make that sort of determination. I've had them looked at, I've had them inspected, I've had them sort of taken away for review and returned, but I've never really had an issue. If you are concerned about traveling with metal needles, use your own discretion, I would say, is probably the best policy. There's no real hard and fast application of the rule. I've heard of people that literally have pulled up the TSA regulation and still had them removed from them. So I would say your best bet is, if you're traveling with circs, bring wooden needles as backup so that you have something to transfer it onto if necessary. If you're using interchangeables, I would not bring your best just in case. But like I said, I personally have never had any issues. So don't take my word for it. Your results may vary, but I wish I had a more definitive answer. I'm sorry, I just don't. And I don't know if anyone really does. So that's the first thing I want to talk about. The second thing is Vogue Knitting Live is coming up in January. And if you were on their mailing list, then you would have received notification that, unfortunately, right after Rhinebeck, they opened registration for classes, which is kind of cruel considering how much, we invest in going to Rhinebeck and spending on yarn and stuff, and all of a sudden, wham, get hit with another registration fee. But that said, I am done and registered, so I will be at Vogue Knitting Live. I have a class on the Friday, I have a class on the Saturday, I have a lecture on Saturday as well. And this year I decided to keep it a little more, let's say a little more relaxed than last year. Last year I sort of packed things a little too aggressively, and it left me less time than I would have liked to socialize and meet people and meet up with friends and that sort of stuff. So anyway, I'm going to talk more about that next week. Point being, if you are planning on going and you were not aware, you are now aware that you should be registering for classes. Hopefully you get into something that interests you. I had a really hard time picking my classes because a lot of them were pretty amazing, and God, all the amazing instructors are coming. Hohi Locatelli will be there, and Bristol Ivy, I believe, is going to be there, and Stephen Berg will be teaching, and who else? Vera Valimaki is going to be there, and Patty J. Lyons will be there, and Debbie Stoller will be there. So you get the idea. So if you're interested and you haven't registered, I'd suggest you go and do that right away. Pause now, come back. It'll pick up where you left off, but I'd suggest you go and do that. So we'll talk more about Vogue when we get a little bit closer. But let's just say get registered if you can. So now the big news, of course, is the road to Rhinebeck. And at the beginning of this episode, you would have seen just a little bit of footage of the drive home from Rhinebeck, because the ride there was not quite as lovely in the light, and I was doing a lot of driving on the way there, so I couldn't take much video. But I wanted to sort of give you my experience of what Rhinebeck was like for me. So my lovely friend Ramona came with, and we hopped in the car on the Thursday. We decided to sort of take our time getting there because it is quite a haul from Toronto. And then we found out that Josh Ricks was doing a trunk show and talk with his friend Jenna of 716 Knits at the Embraceable U in Hamburg. So we thought, what the heck, it's right pretty much on our way. We should stop in, of course, as you do on the way to a yarn show, go to another store. So we did, and we stayed for the talk, which was great. Josh is an amazing speaker. He's very, very inspiring. And I may or may not have come out with wanting to make one or two new patterns. Condor, that's all I'm saying. Condor, check it out. So that was fun. I did pick up a skein of yarn, which I'll show you in the haul, from Jenna, which is lovely. I really loved meeting her. She was awesome. Hi, Jenna. Hi, Josh. So we did that, and then we stayed overnight on the way, sort of halfway there. And then Friday, we drove the rest of the way, and as a thank you to Chelsea, who, if you're not aware, Chelsea and her husband Justin are two of our models in the first issue of Rib. And I wanted to take her and, of course, Sue. Hi, Sue. Hi, Chelsea. Out for dinner as a thank you. And, of course, we knew that Andy was coming into town with Corey and their girls, so we just said, like, let's just all get together for dinner the night before. So we did, and we had a lovely time. I barely remember dinner. I know we ate, and it was good, but I was just so enthralled and enamored with the company that we could have sat in a coffee shop and I would have been thrilled. So we had a great time visiting, and both Sue and Chelsea and Andy had little things for me, which were amazing, and I'll show you those again in the hall. But it was fun. It was just such a good time. Then we got back to our hotel, and we had a hard time sleeping because we were so excited. I mean, it was a long drive, but we were just so excited about going to Rhinebeck the next day. So we did manage to finally get to sleep, then got up really early and had breakfast at the hotel, which was nice. It was just included in the hotel. And the funniest thing happened. So we were sitting there talking. Ramona had her Rhinebeck sweater on, and I had the Rift on and a few other things. And a woman who was there with her friends actually said to Ramona, what pattern are you wearing? Did you make it? Of course she had. It was lovely. And then later on our way out, I was wearing my Void shawl. And the same woman came to me and said, oh, how lovely. How nice is it that... I don't think she called Ramona my wife, but I think she just see how lovely is it that she knit this for you. And when I immediately turned to her and said, well, actually, I knit this and the sweater, and I have to be wearing a hat as well. And the hat, too. I think they were a bit shocked and surprised, but it was kind of triumphant, let's say, as a male knitter to say, like, oh, look, see, we do this too. Anyway, it was just kind of fun. Then we drove up to the fairgrounds, the Dutchess County Fairgrounds, parked the car. We actually got decent parking, got in the queue, which was quite long, but moved really quickly. And funnily enough, there's one thing that we said that we weren't going to do is that pretty much the first thing we did was picked up a few skeins of yarn at Into the World, and then ran into a whole bunch of people. Ran into Sue and Chelsea, and Debbie and Amy of the Periscoping Sisters, and Connie from Chili Knits, and her mother, who's lovely. And ran into, oh gosh, a whole bunch of people. And then, of course, I went, and Jacqueline, of course. Hi, Jacqueline. I ended up going to the Miss Babs booth, and what did I do? Yeah, stood in line. Couldn't help it. So, it was not as bad as they said it was going to be. The queue was outside. It was a lovely day. It was comfortable and cozy. We talked to some great people in the line. And it took about 40 minutes to pay, but after the sort of intensity of the first crush of getting in and being excited and everybody's jazzed, it was kind of nice to have a bit of a momentary breather to sort of reset and relax before sort of absorbing the rest of the day. So I'm going to talk a little bit, I'll talk about the shopping after the fact when I'm in the hall, but sort of I'm recapping in my thoughts how this went. So we ran into Devin and Jenny, of course, of Handmade in Woolen, which was awesome. And they were standing in queue with sort of my knit idol, who is Michelle Wong. I absolutely love Michelle. I might have scared her just a teensy bit at how enthusiastic I was about meeting her, but I could not have been more thrilled to finally get to meet Michelle. And we got to meet a number of people. The thing that was so cool about Rhinebeck is that all these people that you either watch their Craftsy class or you follow their blogs or you've knit their designs, they're just walking around like regular people like the rest of y'all. And I don't think anyone really truly had an issue with either posing for a photo or an autograph or something like that. Like everyone was quite accessible, which was really nice to see. So we walked around quite a bit. We met up again with Andy and Corey and their girls. And oh gosh, then we ran up, talked to Josh again, which is great. And then it was, all of a sudden it was time for the podcaster meetup, which I never having been, this is my first time at Rhinebeck, I didn't quite know what to expect. I was a little nervous for a number of reasons. I'm usually pretty good with crowds, and I'm usually pretty good with meeting people. But I'm not going to lie, guys, it got a bit overwhelming. I loved meeting everybody, and I'm so sorry if I've forgotten anybody's names, and I'm not going to try and go through, because there was so many people were so kind and so generous with little gifts or buttons or tokens of appreciation, which were completely appreciated, wholly unnecessary, but absolutely lovely to receive. Saw some amazing people, great knitwear, got some crazy pictures. I realized I look like a bit of a mental patient in some of them, probably because I was so enthusiastic about getting to meet some people that it was kind of overwhelming. I didn't get to say hi to Kristen, which was like the only one I was kind of like, I saw you way, way, way over in the distance, and I didn't get to say hi. So hi, Kristen, post Rhinebeck hi. But it was awesome. It was so much fun. Ramon and I had packed a lot of snacks. We had stopped at Target on the way and bought a whole bunch of sort of emergency snacks along the way, because we thought, there's no way I want to spend an hour in a queue just to get food when I could be spending it either talking to people or just enjoying time together. So, or shopping or checking out merchandise or whatever. So we kind of nibbled as we went, which is cool. I don't want to make sure I don't miss anything. So, oh gosh. So after we met, trying to remember who did I get to meet. Stephanie Pearl McPhee, got to see her again, which was great. We met Nora Gone. We met the Bergen sisters, which was amazing. They're both designers that are based here in Toronto as well, which is kind of cool. I got to meet Lydia Gluck of Pom Pom magazine and have a good chat with her. Met Amy Herzog for the first time. I got to reacquaint myself with Patty J. Lyons, who happened to remember me from Vogue knitting class that I did with her, which was awesome. Who else did I get to see? Sorry, I'm going to switch. And Anne Hansen we got to meet. Who else? Oh, Amy Collins, of course, from Pom Pom as well, who's also an editor there. Julia Farwell Clay was a designer. Really enjoyed meeting her. And of course, Michelle Wong. Right, like, of course. What else? So, oh my gosh. I'm getting overwhelmed just even thinking about it, because it was just such a crazy fun day. Got to meet Tammy of Wing and a Prayer Farm. We did not see any animals whatsoever until the second day. I saw not one sheep. I saw goats. I saw monkeys. I saw lemurs. I saw, I think there were kangaroos. We saw some dogs, but I didn't see one sheep. Not one sheep. Oh well. What else, right? So that was the podcaster meetup. And the rest of it. Oh, and I wanted to say, a lot of the podcasters that came up to me that are new podcasters, I wanted to just say, absolute best of luck in starting your podcasts. I do believe that everybody has the right to have their say, and it's a great forum to do that. So good luck and congratulations on taking the first steps. I know it's a little daunting. It's still a little daunting, even for someone who's now been doing it for almost a year. So congratulations on doing that. All right, so what else? Shopping. Did a lot of shopping. Not going to lie, spent a little bit of money, and I'm going to show you in the haul what that all looks like. But after a number of hours of meeting people and hanging out and shopping, we were kind of pooped. It was time to leave. We had dinner plans for that evening, which was great. So we drove out to Kingston, which took quite a while, both due to traffic and a couple of accidents that people had along the way. So we got to have dinner with Jenny and Devin again, which was great. And then after dinner, we had tickets to go to the Jill Draper's studio, who was doing sort of an open house. And so we popped in there for sort of the last half hour, which is great. A lot of stuff had already been sold, which was awesome. If I have one regret, despite the title of this week's episode, if I had one regret, it's that I didn't pop and get the Empire Skein. I don't know what I'd ever use it for, but they're just so sculptural. I kind of wanted one just for actually right where the camera sits is right on the center of my dining table, and I think it would be an awesome sculptural accent. But I was kind of unsure as to how Sebastian would take having a big, massive skein of yarn being sort of the centerpiece on our table. But I sort of ran it by him after the fact, so he's kind of cool with it. So I think at Vogue, that might be on my shopping list for Vogue, is to get an Empire skein. That's an amazing chartreuse color that Ramona snuggled for me. So I'll put a picture here so you can see what that looked like. But next time. So that was the first day. We had bought tickets for the whole weekend, so we thought before we take the drive the rest of the way home, we would stop in on the second day. And boy, am I ever glad that we did. If the first day is, panic crush, New York at rush hour, the second day is kind of like suburbs on a Tuesday afternoon. It was quiet and it was calm and it was relaxed, and the vendor still had tons of material to sell, so it's not like you'd ever have to feel like you can't get what you were looking for. I'm sure there are things like if you really must have that Jenny the Potter mug, you better get there early and run to get one. Not my thing. Didn't really care. They're nice, but they're not really for me. So it was really nice to see again some of the people that I didn't get to really connect with as well on the Saturday. Melissa of the Spicy Homemaker podcast, got to talk with her a little bit more, and her son Ashton, who had come to see Rhinebeck as well. Got to spend a little bit more time with Gabby from the Once Upon a Corgi podcast, and Adrian of Freakish Lemon, and their mom and their friends. So that was kind of nice to just sort of spend a little bit more time with Sue and Chelsea before they had to leave. So it was good. It was much more relaxed. I did manage to pick up one more sweaters quantity while I was there, because I'd had a couple. I knew that I wanted to get 2, maybe 3. Here's a little teaser for what's coming up in the haul. I got all 3. Yeah, I know. So that was great. It was a lot more relaxed. We did manage to get some apple cider donuts, which are, quite the Rhinebeck tradition. So the lineup on this Sunday was still quite extensive, but it was not like an hour. It was more like maybe 20, 25 minutes. So, and they were totally worth it. And then we sort of packed up and drove home. And it was great. The drive home was pretty uneventful. It's a long drive, but we split a little bit of driving just so I could have a bit of a break through the middle of it, which was great. And will I be doing it again next year? Absolutely. Totally recommend it if you can make it to go. It was so well worth it. And again, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who introduced themselves and came to say hi. Thank you for excusing my over-eagerness and my potentially crazy-looking smiley face, but you can't help it. You can't help feel, but nothing but love. So that was Rhinebeck 2016. It was awesome. And I think that's about it for Rhinebeck. And that brings us to the part that maybe some of you have been waiting for, which is the haul. All right, so it's time for the haul. And what would a trip to Rhinebeck be without really it's the shopping. I did well, let's say. I had a list. I knew exactly what I wanted. I knew I wanted 2 to 3 sweaters quantities. I knew I wanted some Cormo. I wanted something that was a wild card. And then I ended up with a few more extra things. So I could go through this in order of acquisition, but frankly, you don't care. I don't care. So I'm just going to go through. I have a bag sitting next to me here. We're going to bring them up, show them, and we'll move on because I don't want this to be an hour. Most of the stuff I have not yet knit with, so I can't tell you how it feels. I can't tell you what what to watch out for, or how it knits up. So I'll be talking about that more as I knit through the projects. But I wanted to share at least what did I come back with. So first thing on the list, this is from Jenna, who is, that's her card, 716 Knits from Buffalo. This is her DK base. This is the 716 Pride base, which is 100% superwash merino. This colorway is the Ice is So Slippery, and I love it. Blues, yellows, greens, speckles. It's so good. I love this color. I wasn't planning on, I didn't even really realize that she was going to be selling, but When I saw this, I just knew I had to put that away. There was a lot actually I could have bought, but it was sort of day one, and I was trying to keep it relatively sane until we got away. So that one's awesome. So if you are anywhere near where Jenna is selling, I can really recommend it. It feels really, really awesome. I can't wait to work with this. And for those Josh fans amongst you, there are some neon specs in there. Neon. Okay, so that's the first one. Then my wonderful friends Sue and Chelsea, of course, of Legacy Knits podcast and Legacy Fiber Arts yarn dyeing, gave me a beautiful skein of, that's their tag. This one is the highly coveted Sweater Weather, which I love this color. This is in their steel toes, which is 75-25. The put up is 463 yards. And I feel like this, as much as I'd love to make socks out of this, I feel like this would be a shame to make into socks. I think this needs to be either a scarf or something for me, because it's just, the colors are just ridiculously gorgeous. And there's purple in amongst the golds and yellow. It's stunning. I love this color. So thank you so much to Sue and Chelsea. They also included a bag of minis, which I will be adding into my sock blanket at some point. I love these colors. They're all sparkle, which anybody that has been following my podcast for a while knows that I won't use sparkle for socks for me. Might make an exception for Christmas, not gonna lie. Might need to have some sparkle toes for Christmas. But in a blanket, sure, why not? I think these colors are awesome. So you'll recognize some of them likely from some of their previous releases. So thank you so much for those two. I just can't wait. And they're a hefty mini. Those are no 5 gram minis. Those are like 20 gram minis. So they're well worth it. The next thing I have on the table is, I mentioned that we stopped off at Jill Draper. The Jill Draper Makes Stuff studio. And this is her Rockwell base in the Nature Made color. So it is a Cormo Merino crossbreed. And it's quite barber poley, which I really, really like. And I can't smell anything. I'm too congested. You can probably still hear it. But I know from past experience that it smells really, really good. And it's very lanolin-y. You know what I mean. You can feel it. So this, I think, already has a project plan for it. Devin actually picked up a similar skein in a different color, and I think these are going to be the Kindling Mitts. Sorry, having a hard time talking today. The Kindling Mitts by Helen Stewart, which will be really, really nice. This is amazing. So it is 280 yards. It is a DK weight, and this is more than enough to do that, to do those mitts. So I really, really like it. It's super squishy, and I love the color. I don't usually go in for this sort of natural, it's like 3 colors all sort of applied together. But it's going to be so nice to work with. I can't wait to work with that one. On my list, I had a pretty big desire to get some Cormo. I've never worked with it before, and I'd heard so many good things about it. And when I squished the Cormo from Gauge and Tension that Jenny had in her stash, when I went to visit, I knew that that was going to be on my list. So, mission accomplished. I got this wonderful skein of, this is DK weight. This is from Foxhill Farm, and the price is on there, so you'll know how much it is. And it's undyed. This is 3.5 ounces, approximately 308 yards, and it's just so springy. It's really, really springy. This I think I'm going to make into the Fleecency hat. The Fleecency hat patterns have been making some rounds on some other podcasts, and it just looks like it would be just such a cool hat to make and wear. This winter is supposed to be pretty bad in the Northeast, so having a couple of hats on the go is probably going to be a good thing. So that's those. As I dip down into the bag of stuff, what comes up next? Oh, fun! So I also picked up. So the Woolfolk company, which you can see their card there, had just released a couple of weeks or a week before Rhinebeck their new base, which I'm not going to lie, I thought it was more of a DK weight, They're calling it an Aran weight, which I find like a little bit crazy, but okay. This is color T7, which is known as denim. And it is 173 yards for 100 grams, which I guess, yeah, I guess it sort of works in that world. It's really tightly twisted, it looks like. So it looks like it's going to show really amazing stitch definition. But I love this color. Check that color out. Oh, no, the sun's coming out to play. So maybe you'll get some good color representation. Was not planning on buying this, not going to lie. It was a bit of a splurge. Wolf Oak is always a bit of a splurge, but for Ultra Merino, okay, I'll do it. I'll buy. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm not sure what this is going to be yet. I'm thinking it's either going to be a hat or another pair of either mittens or fingerless gloves. I think. We'll see. Let's dip back in. Oh, let's get these two together. Actually, the first place that I stopped was at Into the World, which I've been wanting to check out some of their yarn for socks for quite a while. So first thing I did, my very first purchases actually, I remember these because it was like almost the first booth we popped into. So I picked up, that's their card. This is their hand-painted Gloucester sock base. It's an 80-20 and it's 400 yards in 3.5 ounces. And this colorway is Moriarty, which if anybody watches the, obviously Moriarty from Sherlock Holmes, but Moriarty is one of my favorite characters from the new BBC representation with Benedict Cumberbatch. And I just love these. These will be socks. And these are going to be socks for me because I love this color. So I don't know what's going to skein up like. I don't know. It looks like it might be a striping. I know on their website they probably have pictures or something of what these are. They had samples of almost every color knit up in every base, but I didn't take a picture of it. So you'll just have to wait and see what might turn out like. But love that one. But I didn't stop there. I actually picked up a second one. And this is on the hand-painted Pakoku sock, which is a 75-25 superwash merino and nylon. And this one with a cold, this one's going to be tough to say because I'm going to mess it up. This is the Wibbly Wobbly Timey Wimey colorway that, of course, is Doctor Who inspired. And I'm just, I'm in awe of this color. I love all of the colors. So blue to green to yellow to sort of orange and red and then purple and even like this really, really inky black. I love this color. I can't wait. This will also be socks for me. I think I'm good for sock yarn for a little while. Famous last words. What else? Oh, so Miss Babs. Talked about stopping in at Miss Babs. Apologies. Oh, not in a frame. There we go. I picked up one thing at Miss Babs that I knew that I had to have. And while I was in the queue and I was walking by, before I decided to take the plunge and get into the queue to pay, I saw their exclusive Rhinebeck colorway. So, of course, I had to pick up a skein of that as well. So the first thing I picked up was a Miss Babs gradient set. This is, ta-da, their yummy two-ply toes. So it's 100% superwash merino. It's total yardage of 798 yards. And there are 6 colors. Attic, Mirum, Algol, Mirfak, Perseus, and Dark Perseus, which this has to be a shawl of some kind. I think I have an idea of which one I would like to do with it. I don't know if it's enough yardage, but you'll hear it here first when I decide to use this for something. But I just love the colors, that amazing gradient. It's just so awesome. If you have an idea of a gradient-worthy shawl that is appropriate for a guy, so no semicircles here, please, let me know. Put it in the comments below or comment on Ravelry. It'd be great to hear from you. And then, of course, the Rhinebeck 2016 colorway. Will it focus? It's not going to focus. It's not going to focus. No, not going to focus. Not going to bother. Not going to waste your time. Look how beautiful this is. It's blues and greens and ochres, and then look on this side, it's got these great hits of red here. Like, that's just delicious. So I picked this up fully intending that I wasn't actually going to keep it for me. I knew that this was going to be for somebody, and this is actually going to be a gift for a very, very special person who kind of went so far above and beyond anything that I could have actually ever thought of. So this is for her. You know who you are. Thank you very, very much. And that's for you. So, yay, you'll get it in a couple of weeks. So, that's that. Okay. So, then I'm going to talk about sweaters quantities last. But I did also get a couple of birthday presents, which were really lovely, from my wonderful friends Jenny and Devin. As I hopefully don't go out of frame again. Oh, I didn't. Yay. So they picked up for me at, I don't know which one came from which, I can't remember. But one came from Vermont Sheep and Wool, and can't remember where the other one came from. Anyway, the first one is Fiber Stash Dye Works, and this is in the Storm Coast Tweedy Toes sock yarn. It's 438 yards, it's 85% superwash merino, and 50% nylon neps. So this is not nylon in the base, so I don't think it'll be socks, I think it'll be something else. I'm almost thinking this would make an awesome sockhead hat because of the tweed. I think it'd be really cool. But I love the colors in that one. That's just, I love that. Grays and blues, can't go wrong as far as I'm concerned. But they also picked up the label got a little squished in transit. This is White Birch Fiber Arts. Sorry about the reflection on the label, not much I can do about that, so I'll just turn that around. This colorway is awesome. It's called Does This Rainbow Make My Black Look Big? And I adore this. I would not normally pick colors like this for me to buy because I tend to work in a relatively limited color palette that I enjoy. But this, oh yeah, I love these colors. Like there's everything under the sun in here. So I cannot wait to work with this, and it feels really, really good. Like it's going to be good. This one is an 80-20, a superwash merino and nylon. So this may also be socks. So I am so good for socks for the next little while. But as I'm finding, and you probably do too, I do like having just a good sock on the go. So if I'm watching TV or if I'm meeting a friend for coffee and I don't want to follow a pattern, I can just whip off a pair of socks and like nobody's business. So I'm happy to have that in my stash. Very happy to have that in my stash. Okay, sweaters quantities. I'm going to take a really quick, super quick break here just because my throat's getting a little bit dry. I need a tea refill, and then we'll talk about sweaters quantities. So, sweaters quantities. So let's see, how did I do on my shopping list? Got my Cormo. Wildcard, got a couple of wildcards. And then I had sweaters quantities on my list. And I had specifically wanted to shop for the Spearheads sweater color work, the Oster sweater, and also the Vika sweater. So I knew what my quantities were and what I was going to look for. And the first one that I was really fortunate enough to receive, my amazing friend Andy from Andre Sue Knits dyed me a custom color for a sweaters quantity. So we're not talking just a skein or two here of this beauteousness. There's Andre Sue Knits label, and there's a lot of these guys because this is going to be for the Oster sweater. The Oster sweater takes a lot of yardage because it's very heavily cabled, it's very, very textured, and this color, guys, I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to say that this color reproduces well on screen, but it is like a ripe green apple. It is gorgeous. It's chartreusey, but it's got a bit more yellow, a little less yellow, a little more blue. It's just stunning. I love this color. It was a surprise for me that Andy did that. She knew what the quantities were. We were talking about it, and I can't thank you enough, Andy. It is so awesome. So we were kind of thinking about, well, what color would we call this? So we decided to call this Why Oh Why Is Rhinebeck So Green? Because this year it was still so warm in the fall that the colors had started obviously to come out in the trees. It wasn't like there was no color, but there was a lot of green left. So I thought, well, that's actually kind of appropriate. So this is the Andre Sue Knits exclusive color of Why Oh Why Is Rhinebeck So Green. So thank you so much, Andy. So that's one. I'm not going to show you the sweaters quantity because you only need to see one really. But that's the first one. The second sweaters quantity that I got was for the Spearhead sweater. And in the pattern by Jared Flood in the latest Brooklyn Tweed fall collection, it calls for using their quarry base. And I was not overly keen on working with that base. So I thought I'm going to go to Harrisville and I'm going to check out their turbine base, which is their, it's a chunky weight for sure. It's actually got a different, it's a different weight than the quarry, so I need to sort of adjust my quantities a little bit. But they had two colors that I just thought went so well together. So the pattern, I'll put a picture up here so you have reference for a moment of what that looks like. And the pattern in the colors in the pattern that they used were sort of a navy and a white. And as much as I love those colors, I found these two beauties to go together. So this will be the body, and this will be the color work. So I've got a couple of skeins of these, and then the rest of it will be done in this one. So again, this is the turbine base from Harrisville Designs. This particular color is called Birch Bark, which I'm really hoping that will focus eventually. There, it looks like it's focusing. And it is not just a pure white. It has actually a bit of a bluish cast to it. It's got little bits of green and purple, some little bit of mauve. It's just awesome. And then this color is called Cheshire, which it's one of these colors that it's hard to reproduce on screen accurately. The color that they show on screen, even on the Harrisville site, I don't think does it really any justice, but it's kind of a bluey green. Again, it's got a little bit of purple in it. And I think these colors are going to be just spectacular together in that sweater. This will probably be the next sweater that I knit for myself because being in that it's such a heavyweight yarn, it is going to knit up really, really quickly. At least I hope so. And then I'll have it so if the weather does turn really cold really quickly, I'll have a really good warm sweater out of that. So that was sweater quantity number 2. Then the last sweater that I was looking for was the Vika sweater. And I love this sweater. I think it's just amazing. It's one that I've wanted to, since I saw it originally in BT Kids, I thought it was an amazing sweater. And then in the fall collection, they upscaled it to both in men's and women's patterns. And so I'd had a plan to either buy either more Harrisville for it, or I looked at Green Mountain Spinnery, and they have a very similar sort of tweedy base that I was looking for. I thought, oh, that might work really well. And then I priced it out and started to do the math and went, wait a minute, that's going to be a lot of money for those. And I've already spent quite a bit. So maybe I'll hold off. And I'm glad that I did, because then the next day, I didn't realize that O-Wool was actually at Rhinebeck as well. And I'd never had a chance to really check out their yarns before. And boy, am I glad that I did, because I actually saved about 30%. I saved almost a full $100 by doing that, because I did pick up the correct amount in O-Wool Classic Worsted, and this is in the mustard seed colorway. They happen to have enough so that I could buy all in one dye lot, so it's all going to match. And there was a ton of it. I got to meet Jocelyn, who is the owner, and she actually helped me get the quantities that I needed. And even with, it's a relatively skinny skein, I'm not going to lie. It's only, I think, a 50 gram skein. It's 100 yards. Oh no, it's, how much is this? It's 50 grams. Yeah, it's 100 yards for 50 grams. So I needed quite a bit of this, because again, it's a very, very heavily cabled and textured sweater, which takes a lot more yardage. And I could not be happier with this color. So I'm going to have a apple green sweater, a mustard colored sweater, and this amazingness. So there you go. There's, oh, and look, there. These are my sweaters for the winter, all ready to go. I just have to actually make them now. Whoops, better get on that. So, so that was it for the haul, guys. There's more than enough, I know. I feel really super fortunate to have been able to pick up everything that I was looking for in one go. And I realize the lighting is probably getting a bit shockingly dark. There's clouds rolling in. So I'm going to wrap this up quickly before it gets really dark and say Rhinebeck was a huge success for me. I had the best time ever. I came back with amazing memories. I got to meet so many great people. Again, if you get the chance to go, I cannot recommend it highly enough. You really, you owe it to yourself as a knitter to go at least once in your lifetime to experience it. And just enjoy it, whether you buy anything or not, whether you see the animal exhibits or not, even if you just walk around for the day absorbing everything, it's so worth it. So that's it for the haul, guys. That's it for this week's episode as well. I think, let me just check. Oh, there's one more thing. That's the giveaway. Can't forget about the giveaway. So if you've hung out to this point, then now you're in for the giveaway. So let's talk about that real quickly because I don't want to keep you too much longer. I was contacted through Instagram by a company that I didn't realize that they were a Canadian company, but they are, surprise, that you might have heard of, called Gleaner. And Gleaner said that they heard that I was a big fan of their product, and could they send me one? And I said, well, I have one, but why don't you send me one to do as a giveaway for somebody else so I can share the love of Gleaner? So they did. And sorry, I just reached around here. Ta-da! They sent one. Excuse me, I'm not going to... And they sent me one. So this is the slate blue color, and that is exactly what you see on there. You've seen, I'm sure, a number of other people and podcasters talking about their Gleaner. I'm going to keep this in the bag so it's nice and pristine for you. So all we need to do now is figure out how you're going to win it. If you have one already, please don't participate in this giveaway just so that somebody else who doesn't have one can try and win one, which would be great. If you do have one, don't worry, there will be other giveaways for you to participate in, I promise. But this week's, let's keep it to those who don't have one. I'm never going to know whether you have one or not, but I would just ask for you to be, Scout's honor. So what I'm going to suggest is I'm going to do a guessing game for this. The thread will be open on Ravelry, and what you need to do is you need to guess the colors that I ordered of the Brooklyn Tweed Arbor. And there's clues throughout, well, pretty much through all my podcasts, but I'd say that in this particular episode, there's a pretty big clue. So put your answer in the thread on Ravelry. If you get it right or get it wrong, and I select you randomly, you're still going to win, but let's use that as your way of entering. So I will leave that open. Let's see. Why don't we say, I'm going to be traveling again next week, so why don't we say by end of day Friday, which is, oh my gosh, I'll put all the details here when it's going to close. Whatever Friday is, today's Sunday, 23rd, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. Is that the 28th? Yeah, we'll say it's the 28th. We'll close it at, let's say, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday evening, the 28th of October. And 28, yeah, I think that's right. And what colors do you think I ordered from Arbor from Brooklyn Tweed? That'll be your prompt. So I will announce the winner on the thread on Ravelry because I am going to be away. Next week I won't be recording because I try and record every second week. The week following I won't be recording because I will be traveling to visit some friends in Dallas on the weekend when I normally record. So the week following, I will actually be able to record again, which is why I want to put up something a little bit early on November 1st for the Everybody Loves PiKAL. But in the interim, I will announce the winners and I will send you a message on Ravelry and let you know so we can get you hooked up with a Gleaner. So until I do get to see you again in a couple of weeks, actually probably more like 3, I hope you have a great amount of time for knitting. It is sweater weather, so I hope you're enjoying your handmade sweaters and other goodies. And we will talk to you soon. Take care. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.